I'm Matthew from ALM at Superbooth 2018. I've got four new prototype modules. I've got a sampler, a 6 HP wavetable oscillator, a 5-stage envelope LFO and step sequencer, and a little 2 HP headphone output. The first module is an 8-channel sampler which reads and writes to a USB stick and then plays from internal RAM. It's got 8 megabytes of internal RAM. I've got a bank of samples loaded into the sampler. On channel 6 I've got a little break beat which I can start like that and speed it up or slow it down, set it looping, play it in reverse. I can downgrade the bit depth. So now it's like 4-bit and back up to 16. The internal is 16-bit, 44 kilohertz internal. I can drop down the sample rate as well. And then I can also set the level, and I can set like a decay style envelope. I can change the start and end positions and also the loop position. A little bass sound there which I can pitch. The last 3 channels have a voltage per octave inputs. And a little nice little string sound. And then also the other thing it does, obviously, is actually sample. And at the moment, I've got a trigger coming out, going into a dinky over here, and then the output of the dinky going into the sampler. And if I wanted to overwrite sort of channel 5, I set it to 5, press the sample button, and then we should have a bass drum from there. And if I didn't like that, then I could change it a bit, maybe change the waveform. Sample it again. Yeah, and then I could save that back onto the USB stick. I could further process it. It's at the moment it's kind of like a sort of first revision. There's still some things that are going to change, the way the panel's laid out and whatnot. There's kind of limited CV control at the moment. Eventually, you'll be able to assign CV inputs to the various parameters, similar to like on the Pamela. It'll end up with like a similar kind of UI to how Pamela works, but a bit more immediate by having buttons to get you directly to things. I'm trying to make it kind of like as automatic and as immediate as possible, so there's no kind of messing around editing. You saw that I just tapped the button, it sent the trigger, and then it automatically sampled. I can also patch it. I can patch a trigger into the sample so it will sample automatically. I can patch into what channel it samples into. If I send a gate into the sample, it'll keep sampling and it'll loop round on itself, so I want it so it's very sort of flexible. I can therefore patch it into being a delay with multiple taps. As well as sort of patching into sort of like a weird super sample and hold thing. So I want it sort of very quick to use, especially for sort of live use, as well as being very sort of patchable and sort of fun. I'll sweep through the wavetable. It's only got 8 different waveforms at the moment. I'll probably add some more. It starts with like noise, then going through like classic triangle, saw, sine, and then there's like a kind of bell-like tone and organ-like tone, little formanty tone, and then a pulse wave. Then there's 2 other outputs. The first output is a nice like sub, and then the middle one is Alpha Juno style pulse width modulation. So it takes the waveform from the output I just showed, and then it adds pulse width modulation to it, but like Alpha Juno style. So it's basically not just square waves, but any waveform for the like real like nice swarmy. Swarmy effect. And then yeah, also has a sync input and another voltage input to increase the amount of the kind of quantity of pulses that are modulated, if that makes sense. Next up We have the Quade Mega Slope, which is a 5-stage envelope, LFO, and step sequencer. It has a bipolar and unipolar outputs, and then trigger outs for end of stage and end of cycle. If I set it, at the moment it's just looping, I'll just pull the trigger out so it doesn't reset, and I can set how long that loop is. Each stage has a level control and then a time control, which sets how much time it takes for it to get to that set level, and then also a slope which goes from exponential to linear to logarithmic. At the moment it's just looping. Lost it. But the most fun use is using it as a step sequencer. So I'll change it to step mode down here. I'll patch in a trigger, and then with all the time set low, it's just like your regular. But then when I start changing the time, it sort of adds in a controlled slew. And then changing the slope will change that too. And I can change the length of that as well. Finally is a little 2 HP headphone output. Not much to say really. You can give it a mono input and output a stereo headphone signal where it's taking the audio from it now to the camera. It's 2 HP, but it's also nice and shallow. Just sounds good, should be very affordable. Yeah, just useful 2 HP thing. These are all prototypes. I'm hoping to have the sampler out by the end of the year, and the other modules, well, the Mega Slope in the VCO in the next sort of few months maybe, and then the HBO is imminent. That should be out in the next month. Also, with the grey panels, I'm not really sure what's going on with them. I don't think I'm going to replace everything. Maybe some special editions or a complete system or something with them.